California, the largest populated state in the Union. Over 33 million people inhabit a geographical area of roughly 164,000 square miles. Of those 33 million people calling California their home, 3 million of those live in Orange County, the area we call home. Christianity first came into Orange County in 1869, when the oldest Protestant church in Orange County was formed, known as the Spurgeon Methodist Church. Shortly thereafter, in 1876, Greenville Country Church was established. This church is currently the oldest Protestant church in Orange County. Nestled in the heart of Orange County and known as the Gospel Swamp is Fountain Valley, which became incorporated as a city in 1957. This newly incorporated city was a place where cattle grazed and itinerant preachers set up tents on small islands. The high water table made the land so soggy that it became a poor foundation for building anything. However, it was well suited for bean fields and other crops. The farmers who settled in this area called it Fountain Valley because they could dig virtually anywhere and find a source of artesian water. Living Waters Christian Fellowship, first known as Fountain Valley Church of God, was established in February of 1973 with a total attendance of 9 charter members. The congregation first met at Faith Lutheran Church in Huntington Beach, California, under the pastoral direction of Don Miller. They broke ground on the Fountain Valley 2-acre site in the spring of 1973 and began construction of the first sanctuary in July of 1974, as Pastor Ray Sanders recalls.
And I had a strong part of seeing the church organized there at Fountain Valley. Pastor R.E. Burnham from Southern California, Church of God, called me one day, or we talked one day, about his mother or his sister being ill over in Garden Grove. And I told him that I would go by and pray with her. And I did, and some others joined me. And for several different weeks we had prayer there in her house, and she suggested that we think about starting a church. And so I rented a building, a church. It was a school building for a while, but the church continued to grow. And I worked as a Metropolitan Evangelism Director for the Church of God, and I labored in areas where there was 1 million population or more. And so I thought we needed to build a church there, and the church that's located there now I purchased for $60,000.
In 1975, Pastor Miller, along with State Overseer Pastor Watkins and Pastor Nelson, dedicated the newly constructed Fountain Valley Church of God, and the church continued to grow. June of 1979, Pastors Dan and Finnaby Moore accepted the ministry call to Living Waters. Pastor Dan believed that God had given him a mandate to reach those that are hurting in Orange County.
First of all, I had a pastor when I was 5 years old that later told me that I had told him at 5 years old I was going to be a pastor just like him. And I fought it for many years, but that's what God had in mind. At West Coast Christian College, during a chapel service, God really spoke to my heart. And from that time on, I had a passion to be a proclaimer of God's word. I'd been pastoring for about 15 years, and as a tradition of the church, moving every 2 years. The tradition of the church was singing out of a song, a hymnal, and the style of preaching was not my personality. after 15 years, in 1979, I asked the Lord if I could come to California to plant a church. At that particular time, I wanted to come and sing choruses. I wanted to project the music on the wall and not sing out of hymnals, and that was frowned upon by the traditional Church of God. So anyway, I called the overseer, Raymond Giles, and he told me, we don't have any churches open, Dan. I said, I don't want a church. I want to come and plant a church. A few days later, he called me and he said, there's a church that we've planted in Fountain Valley, California, and why don't you go there and see if maybe, if you're going to plant a church, maybe there's some families there that would help you plant that church. So that's how I came to California. A few things God spoke to me about the new church I was going to plant, which had already been established. But that was, first of all, I asked the Lord to give me the people that nobody else wanted. I wanted to reach the needy, the hurting, the hungry. And as a small church, that was a passion. That was a passion for me. Well, I felt like about 3 o'clock in the morning as I was driving an old Ryder U-Haul type truck coming to California, I felt like the Holy Spirit came into that old cab and began to speak to me about things that He wanted in this church. And I got so excited. A passion rose up within me about what God had told me that He wanted. So at that particular time, I began to write down what he told me. And I have seen almost every one of those things come to pass, except that the church would rise to be 2,000 people. And it's still in the future. The passion is still there.
The congregation began to outgrow its small building, and in 1984, construction began on the new sanctuary. In 1992, with over 300 in attendance, construction of the educational and office buildings began. Two years later, the construction was completed and the building was dedicated. In 1998, the congregation then cancelled its debt of approximately $850,000, and in 2008, Living Waters completed yet another remodel phase, updating and upgrading the sanctuary, adding theatre seating and state-of-the-art media improvements.
God spoke to us when we need to build a church. God says, you can't finance it, but if you'll finance a church for those who can't finance for themselves, I'll finance your church. And that's exactly what has happened.
In 2015, the church completed yet another building program, upgrading the offices and adding a youth hall, kids hall, nursery and a cafe, turning it into the present building we have today. At Living Waters Christian Fellowship, music is a vibrant expression of our faith and community spirit. Each week, our celebration choir takes center stage, filling our sanctuary with harmonies that lift hearts and inspire souls. Currently under the leadership of Pastor Daniel Query, this dedicated choir has become an integral part of our worship experience, bringing forth powerful renditions of hymns and contemporary worship songs.
The celebration choir, or what started as just the choir for the church, that predates me, and from what I understand, it was Pastor Dina who actually started the very first choir here at the church, and it was in the old building, the original sanctuary before we built any expansion. That would have been in the early 80s. But I think who was one of the very first initiators of having the celebration choir as what it's developed into today to be started was Pastor Terry, when Pastor Terry started attending Living Waters in the mid to late 90s. And along with his leadership and as the choir has developed, there have been several performances and special features that the choir has been involved in that really helped to shape what the music ministry was at Living Waters, was and is at Living Waters. We had an Easter presentation called The Day He Wore My Crown, a cantata, a theatrical and music presentation that was an outreach to the community. And there were lines that wrapped around the entire parking lot for hours before the doors even opened, several nights in a row leading up through Holy Week and into Easter.
Their talents extend beyond the weekly services. Over the years, they have astounded us with awe-inspiring musicals and cantatas that resonate with the themes of faith, hope, and the message of love.
We had musical presentations for the 4th of July, patriotic presentations that were incredible and very in-depth, featuring different states throughout the United States and memorializing them in song and in acting. How the West Was Won for Jesus was another choir presentation, a theatrical drama choir presentation. We've had different Christmas presentations over the course of the years, and there's just been so many different memorable moments throughout, from its inception, throughout all of the years up until this point.
I received a call from our previous worship leader, Pastor Terry Martin, and he invited Albert and I to this church. And as soon as we drove into the parking lot, we saw a long line of people standing at the door. And I noticed that several of them were prior choir members of the church where I used to attend. And I got out of the car, came up to the door, acknowledged everybody, and one of them said, "Barbara, get in line. Join." I said, "What for? This is the choir. Get in line." I'll never forget that. And I've been in the choir ever since.
There have been so many opportunities for the choir over the course of the years to not only minister at state conferences and state events and all across and up and down California and Nevada, but also to minister to the world abroad. And the impact that we've been able to have for Jesus Christ has been incredible. And the directors that we've had from, again, the inception of what the choir would grow into in the 80s and then into the late 90s, the singers that have come through, the incredible soloists that we have had and still have even to this day. It's a beautiful way that the choir has been able to partner with the church, this local church, but also with the community of Christian believers around the world to bring the love and the message of Jesus Christ to the nations.
Living Waters is passionate about fulfilling the Great Commission, spreading the life-transforming message of Christ to the ends of the earth. We are known as a church with a heart for missions, where our commitment to winning souls for Christ extends far beyond our local community.
Missions has always been a heartthrob of mine, but it's really a passion. I love missions. I love to go to mission fields. I love to share. I don't like to go to a mission field and live in a hotel. I like to be with the people and understand what they go through. I went to the Philippines early in my ministry, and I told our guide, his name was Sonny Figueroa. He drove the car for us, and I said, Sonny, would you take me to the hurting parts of Manila? And he said, oh no, Pastor, I can't do that. I couldn't take somebody from another country to that section of town. I said, I would really appreciate it. That's what I came for. And so he took us to this section of town, and the dirt roads is inner city, but the dirt roads in it looked like it had been bombed, like a war-torn area. We got out of the car. He said, take your rings and watches off, and he took us over to the most horrible place, several blocks long. And it was over the cesspool of Manila, at least one of the cesspools of Manila. And raw sewage in the cesspool. It stunk terribly. And we walked on 2x10 planks over these cesspools with the shanties on each side, and blaring music and stench and poverty like I'd never seen. I saw a little lady. She must have been 90 years old. She had a gourd that was almost as big as her head, it seemed like. And I said, Sonny, how long has she been here at this place? And he said, oh, Pastor, she was born here. This is where she was born. And I thought, Lord, we have it so good, and with a few dollars, we can transform lives. With a few dollars, we can build a church. We can't do it here, but we can do it there. And what's the difference? Is it all about us, or is it about the lost? And so when the church, I came back and I told the stories, Cambodia, about walking in horrible conditions down little alleyways where people drink water, was flooded, and a pipe, you have to walk on a pipe, and they would take the water and cook with the water, and they would also wash in that water, and it was horrible, deplorable things. And the church raised money to build houses, and we would move them out, and we joined with the Church of God and people from Care and Learning in Cambodia, and we built a city. And it was an incredible thing where people had it so rough, and we saw incredible amount of people saved.
Through our financial support and dedicated missions trips, we've journeyed to countries such as the Philippines, Mexico, Ecuador, South Korea, Colombia, Russia, Galapagos Islands, Cambodia, and beyond. These missions are not mere travels. They are purposeful endeavors to share the gospel, to touch lives, and to kindle the flames of faith in the hearts of those we meet. From bustling cities to remote villages, we bring the light of Christ, offering not only resources, but also love, compassion, and the unwavering message of salvation. Our outreach efforts serve as a testament to our dedication to fulfilling Christ's call to make disciples of all nations. In 2017, a significant chapter unfolded in the history of Living Waters Christian Fellowship. Pastor Dan Moore made a profound decision that would shape the future of our congregation. With great humility, Pastor Dan passed the mantle of leadership to Pastors Dina and Kevin Querry. This pivotal moment symbolized a seamless transition of vision, dedication, and a continued commitment to the spiritual well-being of our church family.
To have one of my daughters become a pastor following me, that is the best thing that could ever happen. When you retire from something, it's over. And if you're a pastor, there's an unwritten rule that a pastor cannot stay in the same church he pastored, especially a long-term pastor, because people will always look to him as their pastor. And I dreaded that day because I love Living Waters with my life. I love Living Waters. And for my daughter, and she hasn't told me I have to go, she allowed me to stay, and not only to stay, but participate, to partner in ministry in many different areas. And I thank the Lord for that. Wow. I think that means I'm out of a job.
In 2021, Pastor Dina was appointed as Senior Pastor of Living Waters.
God has so much in store for the future of Living Waters. I believe that this is an important time for us to sense the foundation and the history from which we're launching from. The first 50 years, that's just a launching pad, but we need to have a firm, strong foundation and a sense of our history so we know the foundation from which we are moving off of. And the first 50 years have been glorious and wonderful. I had often shared about a difficult time that I was going through in life and how I had felt like my purpose or my life was over as far as ministry and fulfilling what God wanted me to do. And somebody had spoken to my heart, spoken to my spirit, and they said, but God hasn't changed your assignment. And it just told me that God wasn't finished with me. And I believe that that wasn't just something for me personally, but I believe that was to Living Waters as a church. I believe that it is to globally to the church, that God is not finished, that our purpose, His assignment for us has not changed. And the mandate that He's given us in Matthew 28 to go into all the world and to make disciples, I believe that's for us today. The assignment's not finished, the purpose is not finished, and so we need to hard press in fulfilling that assignment, both locally and globally, making the impact of loving people and spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I'm excited about where we're going as a church.
Under Pastor Dina's guidance, Living Waters has flourished, embracing new opportunities and nurturing a sense of belonging that resonates with all who enter our doors. Her leadership has been marked by a vibrant and unwavering devotion to the teachings of Christ. Closing this chapter of the first 50 years in our Living Waters journey, we stand in awe of the tapestry woven by faith, from our modest beginnings to the vibrant present. We pay homage to our roots, cherishing the legacy that laid the foundation for who we are today. Today we stand as a beacon of hope, a family-focused fellowship and a church known for its missionary outreach that spans the globe. We've heeded the call of the Great Commission, dedicating ourselves to sharing the gospel and winning souls for Christ. With a heart of gratitude, we thank Pastors Ray Sanders, Don and Margaret Miller, and Dan and Finnaby Moore for their years of faithful leadership, and Pastor Dina Querry, who continues to lead us forward with grace and purpose. As we look to the future, we do so with excitement and anticipation. Our commitment remains steadfast, to be a place to connect with God, His Word, our church family, and the eternal mission. So, with hearts full of gratitude and eyes fixed on the horizon, we move forward hand in hand as Living Waters Christian Fellowship. Together, we honor the past, celebrate the present, and with faith, look forward to a future filled with the promise of sharing the gospel and winning souls for Christ.